Welcome to an unusual tour on our part. We're going to take a look at the the Realm of Nine Fires server. We have been building on this map for, what, a year now? Something like that?
Going on that.
Minecraft has updated 3 or 4 times since we started and added new biomes. A lot of stuff that you're not going to be able to find, jungle, temples, all this stuff, you wouldn't be able to find without finding new biomes, basically, well outside of where our world started. And given that, and given how much I think we've improved, we're going to start over. So a lot of you will never see this world. I might make the files available for download. I haven't decided on that yet. We'll get started with the spawn point, which is the Great Ring, which is directly below us, hopefully. This is the Great Ring. This is our spawn point, made specifically for this server. One of the points that I want to make fairly early, this server is not an RP server. It's not specifically an exploration server. It's been a little bit of everything. We built this with pretty much everyone in mind, so that you could start off in this spawn point and do pretty much whatever you wanted. Sarah's shot my cat. There are basically 2 races that predate us. The first race, the unnamed race, built the 9 fires, which you can see one over there. We're going to take a closer look shortly. They disappeared, no one really knows where they went, and a second race settled here, the Elder Ones, and they built the Great Ring, which is our spawn point, as a means of arriving here and traveling between worlds. It's long since in ruins. It's been broken down. That's because there was a civil war. There were those among them that used the Nether as a place of building up their own power. They ultimately, because of their own corruption, became the pigmen that you see in the Nether. They then corrupted the gates, or the portals rather, that powered the Great Ring, so that they are now tied to the Nether permanently. And that's the reason that we have a lot of monsters and things like that wandering the world. We found ourselves being pulled here because the gate no longer functions the way it was supposed to. We're going to take a look at the last stand that the Elder Ones took. Any ruins you find along the way will typically be ruins that were left as a result of that civil war. This world was more or less laid waste. This was a lot of fun to build. This was an outpost. One of the problems I have with it is it's a little too close to the spawn point for what it's supposed to be. Again, built this block for block using the cheats to give it to me. There are people who complain about the idea of using cheats to build something. It's not as hard, so it's not worth as much. I can tell you, this took a long time. I can build legitimately, and eventually I'll give a tour of my build on the Minecraft Awesome server, and you'll see what I mean, but it takes a lot longer, and for what we're trying to do, we need to be able to build this stuff fairly quickly. I built this in full, no battle damage, and I even built a stairway down to the ground, and then Cyrus came through and built this ruined town around it. And a big part of what we were doing was setting up places like this one, where there's a bed to sleep in, a craft table, and a chest with a couple of tools in it. Or this one's got a pickaxe in it. It's pre-tooling for people who want to explore or RP. There are actually places like this to find items that you can pick up and use. After building all of this in complete form, we went through and we created the battle damage using TNT.
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, we took a lot of inspiration on this one from Helm's Deep, particularly in the movie. So we actually built a drainage hole here, and then blew it open so that the invasion could commence. And basically, we went through step by step what the invasion would have been. So we started out outside, shelling this, and one of the neat things about the design on this is each side of the 4 walls is it's 4 meters thick. So there's actually 2 different types of stone used here. There's cobblestone and regular stone. The result, it already has exposed bits of debris and damage. Then of course we blew out the bridge. We thought that the people inside probably would do that to hold off the invasion. And finally, like I said, we broke through at this little drainage tunnel. And then eventually 2 other points were broken through. There's a cave over here that led right up next to the wall, so that was blown out. And then a much more significant chunk of this wall was blown out. And of course, people who want to explore, there's bows and arrows stored up here for the archers. Part of the reason this outpost became the last stand, of course there's swords in this one, was that it was an underground facility. We have a dining hall. It's actually got a blast point in from one of the caves up above also. And of course, if you come here, you're going to be finding a few odd and end items of food for health, because eventually I was going to put in a couple of different monster spawners, especially the closer you got to the second Great Ring. Here we have the barracks, what's left of them, where you could find items like a few pieces of armor, some iron boots, items that came from the cave.
In case you can't tell, these barracks were built before beds were put in Minecraft. I like the way these look, but they don't really do anything.
No, and there's no way to get even on the lower bunk. This is the bathing chamber. This was before pistons, actually, believe it or not. You can tell when I implemented pistons because there are actually working showers in a couple of places after pistons.
This should be a good retrospective of both the world and its lore, and also you getting a lot better at building stuff.
This is the second Great Ring, and yes, this was built in full originally. So there was 2 full nether portals, there was a full sunken set of rings in the floor, a full ring around the top. There were actually 2 levels worth. Support columns. I dug this out manually. The second Great Ring is in ruins, not because of the Civil War, but because the Elder Ones, as they fled, set off a self-destruct device. And then we blew up one place over here that accidentally opened up a lava chamber. And Cyrus suggested we keep that, so we did. And the plan was to have 2 or 3 different monster spawners over here. Obviously there's plenty of skeletons spawning as it is, but this was going to be where you found the good stuff. And we're going to use the nether portal so we can show you what the nether looks like from our perspective. And this is purely coincidence. And our nether portal connects directly to one of the biggest nether strongholds I've ever seen. Inside of a gigantic magma chamber above a lake of fire. So yeah, this was pre-existing. We built none of this. This is purely a coincidence that this happened. And this place is huge. Our old nether, for some reason, every time we went through, would not save. This is the first one that's actually saved. Yeah, watch that first step. If you walk out the portal the wrong way, you're going to die.
It's a doozy.
As you can tell just by looking around, we have not claimed any of the resources here. We have not really explored this. Every now and then there's a bit of lag because we drift a little too far out and new terrain generates. We were saving this for people to explore during the actual, open game. Although Cyrus had always talked about building a fort here, I think it finally got tired of waiting for him and did it itself. One of the tricks to this is that the portals all tie back to the Great Ring, which goes back to what we were saying about the lore. Purely a coincidence, though. Alright, so we're about ready to start the tour proper, and I think we're going to start off just by going over and taking a look at the first of the Great Fires. There's a bit of a joke with this one. It is Arturus, the Fire of Wisdom. And as the Fire of Wisdom, it's built on top of an old temple that's collapsing and ruined on top of a bunch of, well, sand. These actually started out with the first world that we played on, which we unfortunately have lost somewhere along the way. Cyrus originally hosted our first world, and it was pretty big and in its own right.
Considering we couldn't fly, we couldn't do anything, it was pretty damn big.
Yeah. Well, remember that cavern that I dug out and created the Hall of Champions? Take one last look, and then we'll head over to the statue, I think.
Okay.
We mentioned that there are basically two races that predated current players in this world. The first basically built the 9 fires. The second built a lot of the ruins you see. They're in ruins, of course, because of the Civil War. This is one of the ruin concepts that I really wanted to make, and again, I dug this out. Didn't have the ability to fly, so it does show the difference in the quality. I would build this better now. It's supposed to be basically one of the elder ones, but it ended up looking like a Nazi Wile E. Coyote.
It works, though.
Well, was this like the second thing that we built on this server?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's one of the points I wanted to address fairly early. If you look around, you'll see a lot of snow. That was one of the updates. If it starts to rain, it'll actually rain in a lot of these snowy places, that sort of thing. None of that was originally here. There was a Minecraft update that made certain terrains snowy, and apparently the entire world's made out of it. I think the way Cyrus described it whenever we first found this, you said it was basically the city and everything around it became, or not became, but was day after tomorrow is what you said.
Yeah, basically, you would watch the water, and you know, in Minecraft, the water will slowly freeze. It was going from unfrozen, like springtime weather, basically, and then the water was just slowly freezing over and getting larger and larger. It's the whole ocean freezing over.
So a lot of what we built before that event happened was meant to be water too. So it pretty much ruined the terrain over here.
You are listening to free music by Dano. Download free MP3s at danosongs.com.